know the why human trafficking work is needed: to fight for the freedom of modern-day slaves. But love, passion, commitment isn't all you need to be an effective and successful anti-trafficking advocate. Learn the how. I'm Dr. Celia Williamson, Director of the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute at the University of Toledo. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation podcast, where I'll provide you with the latest and best methods, policy, and practice discussed by experienced experts in the field so that you can cut through the noise, save time, and be about the work of saving lives. Welcome to episode 122. And we're continuing on talking about the survivor's journey and healing. And the survivor's journey is all about internal healing. So we have been going through each of the 12 journeys. This week, we're on the 5th journey. And the 5th journey is minimizes external threats to increase my safety. So if you haven't heard the journeys 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can go back and listen to those. But now we are to the point where we're talking about my need to minimize my external threats so that I can increase my safety. As you know, this is the TNT program, which means through truth, that there are transformations. So we provide tools so that people can uncover or reveal their truths. And then as a result of that process, that journey, they experience a transformation. So the 5th journey minimizes external threats to increase my safety. The truth is that you have unhealthy boundaries. And when you have unhealthy boundaries, it increases your vulnerability and it decreases your safety. Once you understand that truth and you use the tools to minimize those external threats, then the transformation is I maintain emotional and physical boundaries and am safer as a result. That's the transformation. So, people say we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And so looking around at who you spend the most time with, you'll be able to assess quickly if you have permission to be emotionally safe around these people you hang around. So first of all, none of the abuse, the assaults, the victimization you experienced is your fault. That's an important statement because it's true. Survivors of abuse, exploitation, violence, they need to know that, and they need to hear it over and over, that someone mistook your kindness for weakness, and they capitalized on your vulnerabilities, and they used it against you. So vulnerabilities are areas in which you can be open to physical or emotional harm. Vulnerabilities aren't all bad. It's just another word for needs. A child needs to be loved and cared for appropriately. They're vulnerable to that. When they're loved and cared for, then their needs are met. As long as their needs are met, they're no longer vulnerable. Adults also have needs. Being in a healthy relationship or friendship with loved ones allows you to meet your need to belong and be loved. Loved ones can be vulnerable with each other, and they can trust in each other when they have healthy families or healthy friends or intimate partners. Whenever your vulnerabilities are exposed to people who are out to do you no harm, then it's okay. But when it's exposed to people who are out to do you harm, then you're defenseless and susceptible to being abused by them. So being vulnerable should be a choice that you make with someone you trust. The 5th journey focuses on your need to minimize and eliminate threats to your safety. You do this by establishing and maintaining strong and healthy boundaries and learning to control and self-regulate your emotions. Your transformation comes when you're able to stand in your truth and exercise control over who is in your life, how they're in your life, and how they behave toward you while they're allowed to be in your life. in turn, this journey is also about controlling how to react and not react to others in your life. So first, let's talk about boundaries. When we talk about boundaries, a boundary is a physical limit, an emotional limit. It's a rule. It's a space that you have. It's a line that you don't allow people to cross. It's a guideline that you establish that somebody should not violate. It's a physical line. It's an emotional line where they end and you begin, or you begin and they end. Boundaries can be strict. They can be loose. They can be in between. They can be non-existent. When your boundaries are too loose or non-existent, then you feel run over, put upon, not in control of your own feelings, thoughts, behaviors. It's like leaving your house unlocked and allowing anybody to come in at any time and do whatever they want. When you have loose or no boundaries, you sit in anger and resentment because people ask too much of you and you oblige them by doing or giving more than you're comfortable doing or giving. Instead of standing up for yourself and you go along, instead of having healthy boundaries and saying no, you do it. You give it over and you keep doing it. This is unhealthy and dysfunctional and keeps other people confused as to who you really are and what you will and will not put up with. Sometimes having loose boundaries is also kind of a dysfunctional way for us to attract attention to ourselves. If you think about it, if no one knows where your boundaries are, then you can stay offended all the time because people keep crossing them. But you teach people how to treat you. When you don't teach people how to treat you, they're often confused. You're often resentful because people keep crossing boundaries that they don't know where your line is. So in some cases, our boundaries have been so overrun that we aren't even sure where our boundary line is anymore, or how to establish or reestablish our healthy boundaries. And boundaries, of course, are different depending on who and what and where. For example, a boundary with your boss is going to be very different than a boundary established with your kids or with your friends or with your intimate relationships. So when you're not sure how to reestablish a boundary, just think of somebody else who you look up to that has a fairly healthy boundary line. They're just a fairly healthy person. And just place them in your shoes and just think about what they would do in a situation that you might be facing. And that whatever you think they would do, that's the boundary line. So you can find your boundary line by just thinking of somebody else. Like, would it be all right for this person you respect to be embarrassed or disrespected in front of people? If it wouldn't be all right, that's the boundary line. Would it be all right for a friend to slap them, steal from them, or not be somewhere they said they would be on time? So identify with them and you'll find that boundary line. Now, sometimes your boundary lines are too strict. Like you block everyone and anything, everybody and anybody from gaining access to the real you. Like you store yourself away and no one can get to you. No one can know the real you. You're isolated, you're locked in your own private hell. And you experience a double bind there because you desperately want somebody to know the real you and simultaneously block them from getting close to the real you. In the end, when you have healthy boundaries, you're happier. You have better emotional and mental health. You have more autonomy and independence. You engage in better self-care. Boundaries are critical to happiness and to living the life you want. And establishing boundaries is just another way for saying that you're teaching people how to treat you, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So in the fifth journey is all about safety, right? It's all about this external safety. So you have to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, because that is what good self-care is about. Self-care, isn't about taking a bubble bath. Self-care is difficult. It means teaching people how to treat you. It means establishing your physical boundary lines. It means establishing your emotional boundary lines. So there's this theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A lot of people have heard about it, but he talks about, in a pyramid sort of shape, he shows you that the first basic need you have is physiological. It's your need for food, clothing, shelter, and safety, right? And so you can't really move on until you establish, well, first, food, clothing, shelter. That's your first foundation. I should make that clear. Because if you don't have food, clothing, shelter, you will be unsafe trying to get those things. So then next is your need for safety. Then your need for belonging and love. Then your need for esteem, self-esteem. Then your need for self-actualization, which he said is you being able to have the opportunity to perform as your best self. But you notice safety comes before love. So you need to establish safety first. And in order to establish safety, you have to establish boundaries. And then once you establish that, you can have healthy friends and love that's healthy. So physical safety, that's a cornerstone of your recovery. If you're a survivor of any type of sexual exploitation, labor trafficking, trauma, then that's going to be critical. If you aren't physically safe, then you can't really spend the emotional energy, the spiritual energy, the things that you need to do to recover internally. You'll be stuck always trying to achieve physical safety. Once you have physical safety, you have a place where you feel you can lay your head and be safe for the night. You can get up in the daytime and feel safe that no one's going to violate you. Then you can start looking at emotional safety, because no one ever has the right to invade your space or touch you without permission, ever. So when you maintain good physical boundaries, you communicate to other people in verbal ways and nonverbal ways, how they're allowed to approach you, how they're allowed to touch you. Hey, I want to break into this episode for a moment. I want to remind you that survivors of sex trafficking experience trauma as a result. Trauma-informed care is something we learn so that we don't re-traumatize victims. However, trauma-informed care will not lower someone's trauma. We have survivors that need to heal inside. Most quality direct service workers connect survivors to needed services like healthcare, housing, legal services, and more. But these services, while necessary, won't address the internal trauma. Even when we connect them to trauma treatment counselors, they spend about an hour a week addressing traumas that have taken over their entire lives. They need so much more. Connecting someone to needed housing won't fix the brokenness inside. Arresting their trafficker allows them justice, but it won't heal the internal pain. Linking them to a lawyer won't take them to a place of reclaiming their freedom and experiencing genuine joy. Walking alongside survivors to provide support, nurturing, love, kindness, and to build relationship is critical. But they also need the tools to regain the power, choice, and voice internally. Healing the internal pain requires survivors to do the internal work. I've worked with and studied the issue for almost 30 years. I recently wrote a book outlining the 12 journeys that survivors need to go on to heal the trauma and to live the life they truly want to live. I'd love to train you to be a group facilitator leading survivors toward the internal healing they need. The training is the TNT Survivors Journey Group. Let me train you to facilitate these important groups and put survivors on their path to living the life they want and experience the freedom and joy they deserve. To learn more, go to my website, CeliaWilliamson.com, and watch the free webinar to learn more about the course. I look forward to training you and helping you help survivors to heal. And now, on with the podcast. Having emotional safety means that you're safe communicating your thoughts and your feelings in an authentic way. It means you feel emotionally safe around those you spend time with. They don't force you to talk about what you're not ready to talk about, and they don't push you to do something you're not ready to do. When you're vulnerable with them, they're good listeners for you, and they take good care of your heart and your feelings. So somebody that is emotionally safe is going to be transparent with you, and they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They're going to show you that they can be trusted because they're responsible and they're accountable. Not so that you can in turn control them, but it's so that they can help you feel emotionally safe. They know how to practice empathy, and they've been empathetic with you. So being emotionally safe person means that you can demonstrate all of those things, that you allow others to communicate their thoughts and feelings in an authentic way with you. And you don't force them to talk about things they don't want to talk about. You give your friends and your partner the benefit of the doubt because you have good reason to trust them. You, in turn, are a trustworthy person because you mean what you say and you say what you mean. You're empathetic and you show it. So people who are not emotionally healthy are not emotionally safe for you. They will make demands on you. You will not feel emotionally safe around them. You will act in a way that is emotionally guarded, and you'll be a little tense around them. This emotionally unsafe person, they'll ridicule you, they'll make fun of you, they'll talk behind your back, they're not sensitive to your feelings. And sometimes you can be confused because there are some people in your life, they're never physically violent with you, but they act in emotionally violent ways. And let me tell you, emotional violence is just as destructive, just as damaging as physical violence. The emotional violence someone inflicts on you is harmful. It cuts like a knife. Don't dismiss the harmful effects of emotional violence on you and on your self-worth. So safety is your number one priority. And that's why it's a whole journey in and of itself. The people who are emotionally healthy feel safe. You should always feel safe. Safety is when you take it upon yourself to ensure that any hazards or conditions that are harmful to you physically, psychologically, emotionally, mentally are controlled, reduced, or eliminated. It's your responsibility to keep yourself free from harm and danger. That means that you learn to see potential danger, you learn to see unsafe people, and you learn to see and avoid risky situations. So in this journey, I developed some years ago, and we've been doing it in our prevention curriculum with youth, a process called the SAFER process. And SAFER is an acronym. It means that we teach young people and survivors to first see potentially risky situations or a risky person. So the S in SAFER is to see. So instead of dismissing uncomfortable feelings related to where you are or who you're with or where you're going, tap into those instincts, turn it up. If someone doesn't feel right to you or something doesn't feel right to you, tune into that inner voice, trust your instincts, widen your lens, look at the situation, taking all the actions of other people and the physical space into consideration. Is this a risky situation? Is this a risky person? with a motive that isn't clear. So teaching people who, because of previous abuse or exploitation, have really focused on turning that voice, that inner voice in your gut that tells you something wrong is wrong, they've been turning it down. What we need to do now is teach them to turn it up, to pay attention to those instincts. And then the A in the SAFER model is to ask yourself, after you see something, you turn it up, something is making you uncomfortable, ask yourself, what's going on here? And how risky is this? Assess it. Think about the situation and the people involved. With what you see, how is that making you feel? What are they doing? What are they talking about? Where are they? What is their body language saying? What's the risk? Are you uncomfortable? Do you feel like you don't want to be in the situation? Pay attention to your instincts. Who else is around that may be positive and helpful to you? Who else is around that may be negative and hurtful to you? So once you see it, once you assess it, ask questions, then the F in the SAFER model is to focus in and find the best solution. So search your brain for numerous solutions and then choose the best solution. And then the E is, now we have the best solution. We're going to empower ourselves to act, right? We're going to start empowering ourselves to act. What should I do with this best solution? Could I walk away? Could I involve somebody else? Should I scream? Should I run? Should I talk my way out of it? Should I make an excuse and leave? Should I confront the situation? I have to make a judgment call, and then I have to talk to myself, and I have to get ready. I have to empower myself to get out of the situation. And then the last one, R, is respond. So respond based on your assessment and your solution. So now it's time to act. So, and the SAFER process, that's something we do, as empowered adults. We do it all the time. That's the process. It's like, for us, it's like blinking our eyes. We don't think about it. We don't slow the process down and think about every single step we're supposed to take, but we do this. And so when people have been abused and vulnerable, particularly if they've experienced child abuse and vulnerabilities and abuses and exploitation over time, then they have to be taught this process. So that's the SAFER process. And we focus a lot in the 5th journey on that process. And then we also focus on emotional regulation. Like, we have to be able to regulate our emotions when we are in a risky situation, or just when we're angry, when we have a rush of emotion. Because a lot of people say that somebody, they really made me mad. Like, oh my God, they pissed me off. But in reality, can someone make you mad? I mean, I know you're out there saying, yes, they can. But no, the answer would be no. No one can make you mad. No one genuinely can make you anything, because what is inside you is under your control. So you can choose anger, but no one can make you mad. So this is one quote that I found online, and it says, what happens around me, outside me, I can't control. But what happens within me is what I control. Because I have not given that freedom to anybody, then no one can make me angry. I choose anger. No one can make me happy. No one can make me unhappy. I choose sadness. These privileges I own. So I know that emotions can get quickly away from us. But the 5th journey and all the journeys are about empowerment and getting our own voice, choice, and power back. And so when you think about it, that's got to be the ultimate slavery. When I don't have freedom over my own internal self, over my own internal emotions. And so once we start to take power and control back over our lives, then we can choose if we're going to be angry, if we're going to feel joy, if we're going to be happy. And I'm not saying, sadness and anger has a place. It has a place. Some days you want to just feel homicidal, and it can be very therapeutic. As long as you know inside yourself that I'm choosing this for today. I'm choosing this. And it's not that this is an option to choose for every single person. It's not, because there are some people that have a mental illness where they need therapy, they need medication, they have chemical imbalances where they really are not in control. But many of us, the majority of us, are in control. We have to decide whether we're going to respond as a parent, our parent voice, if we're going to respond in our child voice, and we're going to throw a tantrum and lay on the floor and kick and scream, but the adult version of that. I'm going to scream at you, throw things, scratch your car, whatever. That's the adult version of the child throwing a tantrum. If we're going to act like the parent and say, you shouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'm going to get you back. You better watch that's the parent talking, making somebody feel afraid, making somebody feel guilty and all those things. Or are we going to come at this issue as an adult? And we have to practice those things, whether we're going to speak as a parent, we're going to speak as a child, we're going to speak as an adult, and we're going to try to, as a parent or a child, try to control somebody else's emotions and win the fight, win the war, or if we're going to look at it as an adult. Those things, those powers are within us. And so that's what the fifth journey is all about. It's about really owning your life, regulating your own emotions, teaching people how to treat you, and making sure that where you sleep is safe. When you go into your home, that should be a place where people love you and you can be 100% your whole self. If you go into this space and you can't be your whole self, then that is not a safe place for you. So that's basically an overview of the fifth journey. I hope you'll join me and become a facilitator of this amazing survivor's journey and be a part of someone's internal healing and internal transformation. Look, it's necessary to have boundaries. It's necessary to emotionally regulate ourselves. People that have boundaries, they don't have attitudes, they have standards. Somebody wrote, look, I hear if I don't lower my standards, I'm going to end up spending my whole life alone. Like being healthy and happy and financially independent and single is actually worse than being stuck in an abusive or emotionally unfulfilling relationship with people that won't respect my boundaries. I think I'm going to choose happiness. So look, in your life, whether you're on the survivor's journey or not, if somebody is serving you disrespect, leave the table. Until next time, the fight continues. Let's not just do something, let's do the best thing. If you like this episode of Emancipation Nation, please subscribe and I'll send you the weekly podcast. Until then, the fight continues.